I was thinking about, when I was preparing for this talk today, I was thinking about a conversation I had about 9 years ago in Dublin with when I was Director of Services with DePaul, with another Director of Services. And we were talking about his organisation, another organisation, and our organisation. And I'm going to leave out the swear words, but he said to me, Kerry, you know, Organisation A is really good to its staff, but rubbish to service users. You, DePaul Ireland, are brilliant to your service users, but rubbish to your staff. We are equal opportunities, we're just rubbish to everybody. So at that time, that got me thinking about, you know, we were a very new organisation. We come to Ireland basically to, I suppose, meet unmet need and work with the most excluded at that point in time. And I think we were just so focused on getting the most difficult to reach people off the streets in Dublin. We opened 2 services that were the first of their kind in Dublin at that point in time, one for active drug users and one for active drinkers. And I think we were so focused on getting people off the streets and into services who hadn't been in services for years that we weren't necessarily investing as we should have done at that point in time around the needs of our staff and volunteers. But I think over the last 8 years, we've started to really invest much more heavily in our staff and our volunteers for that matter. So, oh, that's me. So anyway, just to give you a brief overview about DePaul Ireland. So we are we're part of an international group of charities, and I'll refer to that later on because there's benefits for us as part of that. We're a values-led organisation. You'll hear that throughout the course of this talk. We share close links to our Vincentian partners and our founding partners, the Society of St Vincent de Paul, the Daughters of Charity, and the Vincentian Fathers. We're cross-border, so my role is to be Chief Executive of both DePaul Ireland and DePaul in the Republic of Ireland, so registered as 2 companies but operating really as one organisation. We were established here in 2005 and in the Republic of Ireland in 2002, so still a relatively young organisation. In 2013, we supported 2,014 people. It would have been much handier if one person had turned up, and that would be easy to remember. We employ over 325 people, opportunities for volunteers, over 300 volunteers over the course of the year, and you can see the level of contribution they make to the organisation. The services are all supported by a quality assessment framework. That's important to us because obviously in the context of supporting people, we have that here in Northern Ireland. That doesn't exist in the Republic of Ireland, so a lot of the learning that we have from here we've brought to the Republic of Ireland as well. Anyway, all the rest of it, as you know, about good governance. So our work basically can be broken down into 4 pillars. So community and outreach work, work with vulnerable families, harm reduction, which was the reason we came to Ireland in the first place, and then finally criminal justice and mental health. And I won't go through all of that in detail. It's just to give you some idea. So why was I asked to speak about this today? I suppose that's a good question. Around about 2 years ago, we received Investors in People Gold, and we were one of a small number of organisations to get that. So I think that said something maybe to Cameron and to others about the satisfaction within our staff. I would qualify that by saying we're by no means a perfect organisation, and certainly there's times that we could do an awful lot better in terms of hopefully not so much our service users, but perhaps sometimes in relation to our staff and our volunteers. And as an organisation, our ethos is very much around low threshold and harm reduction. So we have an expectation that people will go over and over above the extra mile. So I think from that point of view, we know it's a very challenging environment to work in the services that we run, and we've acknowledged that to our staff. We're very open about that. We also have lots of challenges from the point of view of being a cross-border organisation and benchmarking our staff against the 2 different jurisdictions, and then how we communicate with people around that and make sure that we keep everybody on board. So, for example, we talk about here there being freezes in funding, and we've obviously had capped salaries in Northern Ireland for some years, but in the Republic of Ireland we've had to cut salaries between 5 and 10%. So managing the relationships between our staff, both sides of the border, is important for us. But I suppose I don't really know this in comparison to other people's statistics, but I thought this was useful to let you know. So 58 LMT stands for local management teams. So 58% of our local management teams have been grown from within the organisation. 68% of those local management teams have been with the organisation for over 5 years. 42% of all staff have been with the organisation for over 5 years, and there's lots of arguments for why this is a good thing and why it might not be such a good thing. And we had 85% staff stability, which we would define as people who've had over 1 year of service in 2013, which is a little bit down in 2012, which was 92%, but you'll be pleased to hear that we took over a couple of smaller organisations in Dublin, and we think that's probably reflected in this, new people coming into the organisation. So, as I said, we are a very values-driven organisation. I don't say that lightly. We talk about our vision, mission and values all the time. I'll not go through this because I know we are tight enough on time, but I will just speak about our 4 values because these are used, they're more like behaviours really, so these are used regularly within our organisation, and hopefully you'll see that throughout the theme of this talk. We celebrate the potential of people, we put our words into action, we aim to take a wider role in civil society, and we believe in rights and responsibilities. So I've been asked today really to speak about DePaul Ireland's approach to recruiting staff, equipping staff and motivating staff. And everybody in this room is thinking about this every day, and there's some stuff that we do that of course you'll be doing, and there's some stuff that you'll be doing that we'll not be doing. So I'm not putting us up here as the font of all knowledge, but just to share some of our experience. So in terms of recruitment, I suppose from our perspective, we don't always get the right people through the door, but I think probably about 99% of the time we do now. We've learned to be really, really clear about who we are and what we want. So we talk very clearly in our literature about our low threshold and harm reduction ethos. We talk about our values. We have a strategic plan, which is called Why Not? And that's just, again, really sums up the ethos of the organisation. We basically want people, before they put pen to paper in an application form, to know that they're going to be asked every single day within DePaul, Ireland, to work with people who others might struggle to work with, and we're going to ask them every day to be challenged with that client group. So if they don't want to do that, DePaul, Ireland isn't the best place for them to come to. So we're trying to be clear with people before they put pen to paper about who DePaul, Ireland is. We've also worked in interviews to ask people a specific question about how do their personal and professional values marry with those of the organisation. So again, we're wanting to hear at that outset that there's a natural fit for people within the organisation or coming to the organisation. I think then, really, after that, sometimes I feel like we're developing a cult within DePaul. After that, then it's about induction, and the induction, again, should really be talking to people about the vision, mission and values of the organisation, the culture of the organisation, and then the systems and expectations would come after that for me. That this culture piece is really important, and then you give people the tools to be able to deliver on that. So in terms of the tools to be able to deliver on that, I'm going to speak about 4 things. So, as part of DePaul International, we have the principle as a group of solidarity and subsidiarity. So the solidarity piece is really, again, as a group, as an international group of charities, around our vision, mission and values and our ethos and culture. And then the subsidiarity is really about allowing people to get on with the task in the country that they're being asked to do. So we have tried to bring this into play within DePaul, Ireland as well. So again, framing our work around our vision, mission and values and our ethos, our harm reduction and low threshold working. And then also training people around commonality that we would want for the entire organisation. So, for example, the DePaul Ireland Support Planning Toolkit, which we would use in both Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, so that would be universal. But above and beyond that, what we want is to have well-equipped and trained managers to get on running their services. I talked about the 4 pillars of service provision that we have, so there's absolute clarity in my mind that there's not one size fits all. So we want to give people the tools to then have the freedom to get on with managing their service within that. So in order then to do that, we have a whole host of policies and procedures, which I won't bore you with going into at the moment. But again, I think these policies and procedures, some of them aren't so flexible because they're very much legislatively driven, but a lot of them really are about guidance, and you don't want people to be rigid in the application of them. You want them to apply common sense and again recognise that one size doesn't fit all, even with their staff members as well. So we try to give people the tools to be able to do that. I think some of our services, it's interesting if I give Stella Maris, which is in Belfast, which is our service for street drinkers down by the docks. Stella is a classic example of you go into a project and on the face of it, it seems very relaxed. Well, some days it doesn't seem so relaxed, depending on if anybody's had too much to drink that day. But it does appear to be quite a partnership approach in the front of house. But behind the scenes, it's an absolute military operation. And again, some of the systems and processes that they have in place there would be quite different to the systems and processes that we have in place in our family projects. And the risks are different. So obviously the risk in Stella Maris is around people drinking, trips and falls, things like that. Whereas in the family project, there's a lot of risks around child protection. So again, it's building a framework to allow managers to get on and thrive and grow. Training, so again, we have developed talent within the organisation, and I think that recently, I suppose we had a very traditional approach to training. We had a core training, then we had localised budgets that managers could get on with assessing the needs of the people within their team. And we still would have that, but we've developed other areas of our work. So 3 areas that I suppose are separate from our regular training would be, firstly, our Vision, Mission and Values course, which we do in partnership with DePaul International. And we take between 6 and 8 people each year from DePaul, Ireland and other parts of DePaul International. And they would spend a few days, it's funded through DePaul International, a few days learning about the roots of the organisation and St Vincent de Paul and St Louis de Marillac. And then they do a follow-up leadership course. So this is open to all levels within the organisation, so it's not just for senior managers or anything like that. And the 4-day leadership course is Leader as Servant, Leader as Visionary, Leader as Catalyst and Leader as Mentor. And we're now developing a follow-up session to that as a group, which will be delivered to all staff across DePaul International on our philosophy of care. And that really is about hospitality, welcome, and service. So that's something that's really important to us as an organisation, because it's about growing champions of the values within all aspects of the organisation. We also have, because of the growth of people from project working, frontline staff into management, we've developed an emerging leaders course. So again, this is open to all project workers. It was designed with the help of an external consultant, but specifically designed for DePaul, Ireland. So it's very much about setting the standards that we expect of management within our organisation, but really encouraging our project workers to put their names forward, say that they have ambitions to be a manager, and then to do this course. We've also trained our managers to be the trainers on that course, so they're getting the chance to develop further as well. We're also now looking at taking our mainstream training and refocusing it under our 4 pillars. So again, we want to call that reaching your potential. So accepting that one size doesn't fit all under each of our pillars, designing our training to really upskill people, but then allow them to have the opportunity to transfer across the organisation. Now, this is the tricky bit, because now I'm going to talk to you about IT, which I am absolutely rubbish at. So I can take no credit for most of what I've said today, but specifically about this. So over the last 2 years as an organisation, we've invested heavily in IT, and we moved to Google. We've got centres now in Northern Ireland, in Dungannon, Derry, Belfast, and then we have centres in Dublin with potential to move outside of Dublin quite soon. So, you start to think about how can we be more efficient as an organisation. So we've invested heavily in IT equipment. And actually, what we invested, we saved in the first month on travel. So we can now do Google Hangouts, face-to-face meetings with people just within our own system. We can share documents within our own system very easily. And that has just been a massive, massive help to us, because you have somebody who's working in Stella Maris, working with a client. You've got somebody who's working in Sundial House in Dublin, a similar client group. There's a lot of sharing of practice and information. It's really easy for me. I don't have to actually be in 2 places at once all of the time, but I can be in 2 places at once, which is great. So with the Google Hangout. The other thing that we have done from an IT point of view, and this is maybe relevant when we talk about the outcomes that we've been speaking about today, is, I suppose, for ourselves, have developed our own online outcomes system for DePaul, Ireland. So we are able now to put all of our client information online, and it's protected, obviously, for the project, so each project can access their own information, but not others. But as an organisation, I can, obviously, as the Chief Executive, access information across the organisation, and we're sort of moving into this. We're in an embedding phase in 2014, and I think we'll only see the true benefits of it in 2015. But we actually do think this is going to change the face of our organisation in terms of being able to look at what is the actual impact, and we do believe that over time we're going to be able to do good value for money pieces of work with this as well, with our client group. So whilst it's incredibly helpful for the project worker, because what we are hearing from staff all the time is there's too much paperwork. So there has been an upskilling for staff, some staff who aren't so IT literate like myself. There's been an upskilling for people, but certainly as we move from this, people will have less time at paperwork. We'll have real-time data, including health and safety checks. So rather than doing audits once a year, which don't really tell you anything other than, you maybe did okay that year or you had a problem here or there, we can get real-time information. So this, for us as an organisation, as a frontline member of staff and as the Chief Executive, makes a massive difference. So just the basic, oh yeah, and the staff named them, Otis and Epic, our impact measurement tool, and also our intranet system, which we've also been able to introduce. So just in terms of staff motivation, I mean, in our strategic plan, the aim that is specifically addressed at staff is to foster a warm and welcoming environment based on commitment, involvement, diversity and excellence. And really, all of what I've said earlier hopefully helps us to do that with our staff, and we've obviously got a lot of actions under that. But I think for me, staff motivation is really an interesting issue, and when people are, because obviously people quite often have, you know, negative things to say, and for me, I'm a big believer in saying to people, okay, it's absolutely fine to say that, but I really need you to tell me what can you personally do about this, what can your team do about this, and what do you think the organisation can do about it, because I don't want to have a culture of subcultures within DePaul where there's a, you know, the organisation and there's us, and it's more about trying to get people to feel a responsibility about them personally, their team and the organisation. I think people do come to work, and Tony's going to say something about salaries. People come to work in DePaul, Ireland. We're not the best payer, we're not the worst payer, we're somewhere in the middle, but let's face it, this sector's not a great payer anyway, so there's definitely a sense of vocation as to why people come to work for DePaul and for your own organisations as well. But we do appreciate that within that we have to create a culture of thanks and a culture of appreciation, as well as trying to create a culture of involvement and ownership of the organisation. So there's a number of ways that we do this. This isn't, again, as I said, it's not rocket science at all. We would have a staff conference on a biannual basis, bringing people together, both sides of the border. That's normally very focused on whatever the theme. We just recently were consulting on our new strategic plan, so a massive consultation with our staff on that, but then also peppered with a bit of crack, really. Service workshops locally each year in Northern Ireland, so recognising again that some of the issues that we've just talked about today are unique to Northern Ireland and not to our staff in the Republic of Ireland and vice versa, so we do focus localised. I do sessions with our managers at least once a year, which would be to look at things like what are my expectations of a leader within DePaul, Ireland. And it's really important, I think, to have contact with our local management teams and be really clear about what it is we want from them as an organisation. We've met the trustee sessions for our managers as well, so just again being able to put face to a name for our local management teams to feel that they get a chance to tell the trustees what are the challenges that they face in their services. We've quarterly project management group meetings, again bringing people together north and south to share best practice. I do a quarterly brief to staff, which is really me holding myself accountable to other people about what I'm doing over that quarter, and there's a feedback session so people can ask questions. We've introduced awards recently, so volunteer staff team for both North and South. And one of the things that I think has helped with staff motivation, particularly in light of some of the real challenges in both jurisdictions, is just really basically regular memos and updates for people. You know, it's almost like even if you don't have anything really to say any more than the last time you said it, say it again, keep communicating with people, and that's really helped with our motivation, particularly going through the salary cut sessions period of time in the Republic of Ireland, just going out, letting people see you, talking to people, communicate. Again, regular consultation with people, not withholding information, being as open and transparent as you possibly can. I make a commitment to twice a year visit all of our services myself with no visitors, which I think is important because otherwise it feels like you're just using them to bring people down to see the service all the time. Our staff survey as well, we have done these over the last 3 years with a consistent questions, and we've traffic lit it. I was saying to Cameron, we're quite hard on ourselves, so anything above 90% is green, anything from 70 to 90% is amber, and anything below 70% is red, so we're a bit tough on ourselves. But the point for me really then is going back to people with those red and amber areas and saying exactly what I said before, which is, well, what can you do about it, what can your team do about it, and what can we organisationally do about it, and get people to feedback again on the feedback that they've given you. We're also looking at transfer opportunities. We're lucky in terms of size and scale. We can transfer people again if there is some of the harm reduction services can be very difficult, and you'd want to give people a chance to move into another project to rebuild their energy again. So we're lucky that we can do that. But we're also looking at cross-border transfers for a week, you know, that people can go and shadow others and just things like that. So I suppose for me, in conclusion, I would say, and I would say this because this is what I really believe, is that root everything in your values and have conversations about your values and get people to think about values in how you work, and then develop systems to support this, and think of ways of making the workplace better for people. Thanking people is just so easy. Dealing with the hard stuff is really important. Don't shy away from it. And creating a culture of celebration. And most importantly, I have felt at times that my wings have been clipped elsewhere, and I would really say that the best thing you can do in motivating staff is give them the structures and the systems, but don't clip their wings. Give them an opportunity to grow and flourish. So thank you.